Welcome to SeerCast, where founders and CEOs from the banking, payments, and fintech industry share their knowledge and expertise on solving real world problems. You'll receive tips and techniques on various topics that you can use right away, such as growing a startup, finding funding, bank fintech relationships, change in regulations, and so much more. I'm Adwait Joshi, and I'm founder and chief seer at Data Seers. So let's get started. Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to have Ravi Venkatesan, CEO of Cantaloupe, with me here today on this episode of SeerCast, where you're going to hear a lot of fun things. Of course, one of my favorite topics is of being a CEO of a public company. That's been one of my dreams. So, Ravi, welcome to SeerCast. It's my honor to have you and chat with you today.
Adwait, it's great to be here. I'm very excited about the conversation. It's always nice to chat with you and kind of look forward to doing it on the SeerCast.
Absolutely. So, like I said before, when I was a little kid, I had a dream, and the dream was to start a company and take it public, right, and be a CEO of a public company. You're clearly there right now, and so I want to hear a lot about it. There's too much conversation that we are going to get into. So let's start with my first question. How does it feel to be a CEO of a publicly listed company?
Well, it's scary as hell. I'll start there. Um, but I remember a conversation where yeah, I think I've had this type of a conversation with you as well. But I admire entrepreneurs. I think the world of what they do. I think it's damn tough to do what they do and to start something from nothing and then take it all the way to be a public company. So I joke about taking the shortcut or the easy way to get there. But both have pros and cons. So I kind of grew through the ranks and various functional roles and various other types of roles. But the one thing I can tell you is that even if you didn't start a company and get here, um, I've felt pretty strongly, and I've seen enough evidence now. You have to be entrepreneurial, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. So that does apply to being a public company CEO, for that matter. I think any kind of private company CEO as well.
Yeah, and it's funny. I tell people this, right? The difference between a private company CEO and a public company CEO is that if my employees start betting against me, I get to fire them. But you, as a public company CEO, if people start betting against you, there's nothing you can do but try to destroy them through performance. So of course, the stock has been up and things have been going great at Cantaloupe. So one of the things I always admire, and when people become CEOs, they have many different backgrounds. You're a technology guy. I'm a technology guy, right? I tell people that I accidentally became CEO of this company because I had an idea, I wrote the code, it turned into a company, and here's where we are, right? But your journey has been a little bit different. You have been in technology, from bridge to solutions to backed, and even Cantaloupe, and then becoming the CEO. So how did that play into your current role? How much has that helped or hurt? And how does that change your mindset now that you are a CEO?
I think it's helped in terms of having a perspective on what really makes a great product. And I've always considered myself first and foremost a product development leader and somebody who's focused first and foremost on innovation and finding a very unique and differentiated solution to a market need. Right. That's what I've always considered to be my strength. Where I've seen it be challenging to transition from sort of being a product developer to being the operator of a business is to really let other people take charge of that space and not second guess them, right? So I have a great CTO who runs our product and technology, comes from a great background. His name is Gaurav Singhal. And I've almost been hyper alert to make sure I don't try to get in his shop and make decisions that he should be making, which in some cases are going to be different from what I would have made in his role.
It's my worst nightmare to actually work for a technical CEO who's actually all about technology, because then I'm like, oh my God, he knows exactly what I'm doing. So I have to give him answers that are 100% right and they're all perfect. Otherwise, it's going to be an issue. So that's great to hear. Let's talk about your journey since you took over Cantaloupe. First of all, I'm pretty sure our people would love to know the Cantaloupe story, right? Who is Cantaloupe? What does Cantaloupe do? Because not a lot of people know about it, right? Of course, you guys went through a name change, and it's there right in front of you, but many people may not know what it is.
Yeah, it's a neat little company, is kind of two streams of innovation that came together. There was USA Technologies that started, believe it or not, in the 90s, and they started replacing uh, bills and coins in spaces where that was the only way to pay. And actually started on the golf course with golf ball dispensers. So you had credit card readers that went on golf ball dispensers, and that's where the company started. And soon they figured out that, hey, you got vending machines, you got laundromats, you got car washes, you got all kinds of places where people pay using bills and coins, and a credit card payment would make much more sense, right? And of course, then you had, tap, dip, swipe, Apple Pay, Google Pay, loyalty cards, campus cards, so all kinds of payment methods came in. So that was one stream of innovation. And this was all done in self-service commerce, right? And if you think about self-service commerce, well, one, you got to engineer a point of sale device so that it's suitable for someone to pay themselves, not be helped by a store clerk. And the second aspect is now you have a machine that has to dispense a product or a service. So it's not just enough to take a payment, you also have to have the telematics to instruct the machine to dispense a product, right?
Mhm.
It could be as simple as you go into a gas station and you fill air in your tires. The device that you use to make the payment most likely is ours.
Mm.
And the telematics that it uses to instruct that machine to dispense air or allow you to use the vacuum is our technology, right? So that was one stream of innovation: payment processing, telematics, all self service, unattended. The second stream of innovation was a Silicon Valley based startup called Cantaloupe Systems, started by Mandeep Arora and Anant Agrawal, who came out of Berkeley. They built out this great company. And the problem they solved was they said, if you are running a business where you don't have boots on the ground and you have multiple warehouses and you have multiple locations that you're stocking product, we'll give you a system where you can get real time inventory visibility and dynamically schedule drivers to go out and be 30-40% more efficient in your operations, and do it from a computer sitting in your office, right? So if you think about somebody running 10 cafeterias and office buildings, uh, you know how do they know how much stock is remaining in each location when they send somebody up, how much product they have in their warehouse? That's what this software does, and it's software as a service. So, these two companies then came together in 2017 to create the elements of what we are today. Of course, there were a few more acquisitions along the way. And then since I've been there, we've done a couple of more acquisitions in a hot and exciting space, which we now call micro markets. And in simple terms, that's, hey, you grab a salad, a sandwich, a drink, whatever products you grab, scan, pay, and go. It's self service and it's kiosk based, and that's growing very rapidly. So that's kind of the summary of the business, and we have massive scale. We in what we do, we have 1.16 million connected locations that are processing commerce of some kind, uh, you know, every single day, and that's the highest on the planet. Nobody else has anywhere near that scale. And we have all the elements to really build out a much larger company that can be the global leader of technology powering self-service commerce, which is our stated vision, right? So,
Mm.
and then you mentioned stock performance. We were kind of down, and there were a lot of challenges we went through. There was activist shareholder coming in that put a new board and management in place. I came in as part of that. But since I've been in the seat, I'm kind of happy to say that in a very tough market, our stocks up 130%, and we've outshined the market, our competitors, and to your point, provided the best answer to anybody who was trying to sell us short. And
Exactly.
you know, really, performance speaks for itself for most part.
Yep. And at that point, I guess the resume basically just says name and says, increase the stock valuation by 130% since I took over. Rest you don't even need to know, right?
Well, the bad news there is you got to keep repeating that quarter
Correct.
after quarter after quarter.
Correct.
So in more humble moments, I kind of recognize that it's a case of better lucky than good, and
Correct.
and I hope to continue to continue to work hard and do our best, but also know that the market will have its ups and downs, right? That's
Yep.
just what it is.
And I am very familiar with the connected industry because back in the day, 2005 6 time frame when I moved to Atlanta, I was working with our board of advisor David Patillo, and he had a company called Poto Technology where we had these foot kiosks connected all over the world where people would go and they would step on it. It would tell them how they're walking, and then they would give recommendation on the shoes. Of course, we didn't have the automatic shoe dispensing at that point. That message would go to the salesperson saying, "Hey, these are the shoes they're looking at," and they would come out and show you those shoes. And people are like, "How did you know that was what I was looking for?" We used to call it point of decision because at that point you're not selling or buying anything; you're making a decision
Yeah.
at that point, right? It was a very different industry. It's hard. I'll tell you a funny story about Cantaloupe. When we first started doing this work and we were writing an algorithm for a very typical scenario called the card pings, where we look at people hitting the card simultaneously with amounts that are generally less than $1. And my data scientist got super excited. He's like, I found this fraudulent merchant that's sending these 99-cent transactions through, and it was USA vending, right? And I was like, oh wait, that's just a vending machine, and that's Cantaloupe. It was fun back in the day when they got excited that they found somebody who was sending transactions. But there is so much that happens in that space
Yeah.
that people just don't know of.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much money, so many transactions, 1.3 million locations. Wow. I mean, at the airport alone, probably you guys have devices, and then there is this maintenance that comes with it, right? So do you guys, there is a whole another uh, section of, oh, the machine broke, send somebody out, fix it, or it's about to break. I remember Coca-Cola trying to come up with technology where they were trying to figure out when a machine would break, so they would actually send the guy out before it broke,
Yeah.
because when it broke and the machine's down, they're losing money because customers not able to get their Coca-Cola freestyle products that they wanted, right? And was their cash cow. So I'm pretty sure you experience all of that. There's a lot of moving pieces in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, our protocols and the network is a proprietary network for payments. So it
Ah,
doesn't go through a typical retail network. We've engineered our own network that runs on cellular rails. So it'll
hmm,
run on any one of the cellular carriers. So from a point of sale, whether it's a massage chair sitting in an airport or a vending machine, it'll when a customer makes a payment, it actually comes through a wireless network to our cloud, and we run our own payment gateway that processes the payment. So that's kind of how we are structured, and that lets us do a lot of cool things and a lot of very proprietary, high performance, and highly scalable engineering to make all that happen. We do well over a billion transactions a year, so that when you're engineering for that kind of scale, you do need to make it very robust.
yeah. So that's traditional payments. I know with your previous experience, you're familiar with crypto and all of that. Do you do any crypto payments on these machines yet, or that's thing of the future?
Uh, well, very little. We have integrated that capability, but as of now, we are not seeing crypto be as used as a payment method as it is used as a method of speculative or even non speculative investment, right? So far,
Hmm.
what we are seeing is it's a store of value, it's an alternative investment class. It has not yet become efficient as a payment method. That's not to
Hmm.
say that won't happen in the future. That's kind of where
Hmm.
it is. But we
Interesting.
are we are seeing and we're very excited about alternative payment methods that are emerging, like real-time payment methods. Venmo, Zelle, etc., are very popular. We're also seeing things like campus cards, EBD cash, military star cards. All types of kind of alternative closed loop tenders emerge and become more popular than the traditional, card networks, right? Visa, Mastercard, Amex, Discover, etc.
Interesting. So, but you must still be going over those rails of Visa, Mastercard, because a person is paying through Mastercard and Visa. You're just
Absolutely.
not using the connectivity that is provided by the traditionals like the Ingenicos of the world. You just have your own infrastructure.
That's right. We have our own infrastructure and we do plug into the different card networks.
Got it. Got it. So let's talk about a fun challenge that you have had in 2023. I don't know if you're allowed to disclose it, but as a CEO, what was one of the challenge that you had that you were able to overcome?
Well, I mean, look, right out of the gate, we had a very challenging quarter in terms of, the first quarter that I reported, our profits were not where we had guided to, and they were way off actually. And there were a lot of different reasons for it. But my very first earnings call was, hey, we forecast, uh, positive couple of $1 million, and we're going to be down by 5.5, right? So it was kind of that range of um, negative outcomes, and to then appropriately position why that was happening and what we are doing and how that actually positions the company for better growth. There was a lot that I learned through that struggle in terms of just how do investors hear the message and how do they process it and what are the things that they look for. And sometimes it's a different language, right? So and by the way, I think it takes a while, and I don't think I'm anywhere near done, but I feel like I've come a long way in understanding investor concerns, understanding voice of the investor, and learning how to speak to it, and also learning how to align our internal business much better with, frankly, creating more shareholder value.
Hmm. Interesting. Talking about a language, language of the investors, a different language to speak. I can clearly see a bunch of guitars out back, so you definitely speak the language of music. Uh, I'm a professional musician. You're a musician, so you know let's talk about that a little bit because being a CEO is hard, and you need to do something different that keeps you sane some days, right? For some
Yeah.
people it's running. Yesterday I interviewed somebody who was doing triathlons, right? So music, guitar is one of my favorite instruments and I see many. So what brought you to music and guitar specifically?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So, yes, being a CEO is hard, but I can tell you what's harder. It's 4 nights at a bar for 10,000 rupees and free beer. And I did that for 4 years. So I had a failed career as a musician, one of my multiple failed careers. So, it didn't quite work out for me as a career, but I'm passionately fond of it, and I still play and I still sing, and it's now more a way to decompress and let some of the stress out, and then just transport myself into a different place for brief periods of time, right? And then to sort of get away from the day to day.
Absolutely. And it's hard, right? I mean, most people don't realize that actually living off of music and making music as a career is extremely difficult, right? Nobody is born and says, I want to become a musician because I want to make millions of dollars. Like, it doesn't work like that. And in fact, coming from India, my parents always said, okay, you can learn music, but that's not going to be your career. You're going to have to make money somehow because that's not going to give you money. So obviously very hard, and things change, but that's a talent. I feel like once you have it, you can pretty much have it until, like, it's one of the games, just like golf, right? You can play golf when you're 3 years old or 100 years old. You can still play golf. Same with music. If you can play music at a very early age, you can pretty much play or sing or listen or appreciate until you're very old. That's one of those very few things that stays with you for a very, very long time to keep you sane, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And the other, on that note of how easy or hard is it to make money, I think it's a little bit of that, but there was another driver for me, which was I found that I was going to have to dilute what I wanted to do with music if I wanted to pursue it as a profession.
Mhm.
And by finding a different way to make a living, it almost freed me up to learn and express music in a much more liberated manner because I'm not constrained by trying to make money from it. So, in some ways, um, it let me explore music in a more free and liberated manner. So, I think Of course, there are pros and cons to everything,
Yep.
but yes, it's a passion, and I think it's one that you can carry into your old age as well. And having heard you and jammed with you a little bit, I know you resonate with that.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I look at it as the Sundance of the Hollywood, where Hollywood's making movies to make money. These indie films are coming out because they just have a good story to tell, right? Whether it makes money or not, different story. Let's just get out there, have some fun. One of the other fun topics that we have spoken about and you are very passionate about is meditation. We even had a big show here. I know you have been involved with it. Heartfulness meditation is different than a lot of other forms of meditation, right? And honestly, I've tried it, and it's unique. My parents love it. It's different than anything else that I have seen. And to be honest, nothing that I've experienced before, and I struggle with it, right? Honestly, because it's different, and I am just one of those people that I don't think I'm calm, right? I'm very, you know, I'm constantly moving, and so it becomes hard for me. So I want you to explain to our audience, right? What is heartfulness? Why is it different, and how does that translate into people's day-to-day life? Because it does. It has a direct effect, and you have seen it at a corporate level and at as a volunteer nonprofit level.
Yeah, and look, I've been a meditation instructor and an avid meditator for 28 years now, and tried many, many different forms of meditation, many, many different systems. So the exploration has been deep and broad, and what I've found is that even though we've put a little bit of vernacular around it now, everybody meditates. You're either meditating on how to make more money, or you're meditating on how to grow your career. I mean, it's meditation at its simplest level is just focusing your attention on something and keeping it there as long as you can, right? Thinking continuously about something. Doesn't matter whether you close your eyes and get into the lotus pose or not. That's really it. Now, what heartfulness meditation does is it brings their attention to something that's more subtle and that's less material. So it takes your attention away from things that have a name and a form, so to say, right? So in other words, they're not solid things, and it lets you access the immaterial a little bit, right? So it introduces an idea of a source of light that's in the heart, and lets you explore something that you may not be able to see and touch and feel and immediately know what it is, right? And as you do that, aided with a kind of energy that's used in that particular form of meditation, it allows for a deeper and more absorbed experience very quickly. So that's really how it's different. And because it allows for that deeper absorbed experience quicker, it then opens the door to explore levels of our own consciousness, which normally we don't explore. We just don't go into those spaces within ourselves. We don't know what's in there. We don't know what can be done by exploring it. We don't know what um, capacities we can unlock within ourselves. So that's kind of a teaser preview level introduction. And then the other nice thing about heartfulness is it's offered worldwide free, and all the instructors are people who do it out of passion, you know like me, and spend time doing it. And there's a site called heartspots.heartfulness.org, and anybody can go there, find somebody near them, and learn how to meditate using that.
And that's one of the things that attracted me towards this is the fact that you're telling that you're not doing this for money. And it's one thing to say we are a nonprofit and we're not doing this for money, but the same nonprofits basically say, oh, you can come meditate with me, just pay me $100 and you can come meditate, right? And I'm like, while I understand nonprofits need money to survive and all of that, that seems more like a commercial entity rather than
That's
actually
right.
doing this. And so a lot of people, if I'm not wrong, in the Heartfulness group are very accomplished leaders, CEOs, senior executives who are showing that, listen, I genuinely want to do this because I like it.
Yep, yep. And it's sometimes hard to tell the cause and effect. I would argue in my case, uh, you know, the reason I've been able to make good progress in my career and my job, etc., in a large part is because I'm a meditator, not the other way around, right? So it
Mhm.
helps me stay grounded. It helps me stay, focused. It helps me relate to people better, form better relationships, build better trust, all the things that really now we need, right? Gone are the days of technical and functional expertise powering your career up all the way, right? So
Oh yeah, and I would put it this way, right? Majority of America probably does not meditate. They have never meditated in their life. They probably don't even know what it is. And it's so important because we are moving at such a pace every single day that we don't have a time to just relax and reflect back upon so many things because every moment something's going on. That's why you're seeing so many high cases of ADD, ADHD these days, where people are getting diagnosed at 2 years of age, saying you have ADHD. I'm going to put you on medication, and we should tell them, I'm going to put you on meditation instead, right? Because that would help them focus and learn how to focus, and because all of us need it. All of us need it. For me, it's my music that I can focus through and I can start exploring, and you reach a different level, and then you start getting deeper and deeper and deeper. For some people, it is something else. But you're right. It is important for everybody to meditate at some level to explore yourself because we give others so much time of the day, right? We don't give ourselves any time, and that's important.
absolutely, I love that, and definitely meditation over medication any day. And look, I agree with you that most of America does not meditate, but I'll tell you a change in the last 10 years. Earlier when I would share my passion for meditation and what I do, people would think of it as a little bit on the fringe and weird. Now everybody wants to know what I do, how I do it, how can they do it, right? So there is a shift in the mindset there, and it's been driven more from a wellness angle because there's so much of a mental wellness issue right now, especially loneliness is a huge epidemic.
Hmm.
And because of that, people are looking for other answers, and meditation, especially mindfulness, has been one of those answers, right? That's really serving that need. But I think, you know, it's like, not many people realize this, but in the 1920s and 30s, if you told somebody, "Hey, I'm going running," they would say, "What's wrong? Who's chasing you?"
Yeah.
People didn't just go running.
Hmm.
Now today, if somebody says go running, I'm going to go running. You say have a great run, right? It's a thing you do. So I think meditation is starting to become a little bit more mainstream in that sense. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are clinics I see all the time and other things and kind of, people who do yoga also have a meditation center. It's been my, this, but it's been my long-term dream to build a retreat, right? Mine is more music and connecting with the nature and exploring nature with music, and which is a different form of meditation. But yeah, we all need quiet time. We all, we have too much noise around us, and we need, to just disconnect and reconnect with the nature. So that goes back, this is great conversation so far. I'll go back to where we started. Technology, payments, financial services. Of course, meditating, you said, helped you get to things that you did not think were possible. So what is next, right? So of course you're here. There is a great journey ahead of you. You just started this journey, many, many years to come. Hopefully next time when we talk, you'll be like, oh yeah, the stock's up 1,000% now, or a stock's up 10,000% now, right? We are all rooting for you. You're going to be the Satya, like that was for Microsoft. You can be that guy for Cantaloupe, right? It's like the stock's been doubling and tripling year over year. So what's next for Cantaloupe? What are some of the fun things that you guys
look,
are looking into?
look, I think while it's fun to talk about stock price performance and things like that, really what drives me is two things. One is to disrupt industries that haven't changed in a while and that really need to change, and where the consumer experience needs to be better. And I think self-service commerce and moving more and more traditional commerce into self-service commerce is a wonderful place to do it. So that really drives me. And then ultimately, more than the success in terms of what we deliver to our investors, which is directly based on the stock performance, I am really driven by how do I make our teams more successful in terms of long-term wealth creation and just challenging and satisfying jobs that they're working on, and how does every single person that works at our company feel like they are driving a career forward and not just checking the box on a job that they've got, right? So a lot of it is also around what can be done to inspire people that are colleagues to really take that next step and really that leap towards unlocking their potential. So that's what I'm focused on.
Absolutely, and that's good to know because you're right. It's one thing is to increase the stock valuation, but the other thing to succession planning in many ways. Like I tell people, right, if I can build another me who can take my job someday, then actually I think I've succeeded because then I have put another person in the world that is capable of doing things that they were not capable of doing before. And how can we repeat that across multiple channels, across multiple elements? Because honestly, today the industry is lacking those people that can actually take these roles, and that's why we're seeing such a shortage, right? So I'm hoping that soon, when these articles come out, is like all these Indian CEOs to watch for. Is like, oh, there's Ravi, I know him, because they circulate all of these things on LinkedIn these days, right? So that will be a fun thing.
And I have to share this. The whole rise of the Indian CEOs has been a pet peeve of mine because I remember being on another podcast and I was talking about this and said, "What do you think about the rise of the Indian CEOs? Now you're one." I said, "Look, it's actually not really the rise of the Indian CEO, it's the rise of the humble CEO. And it just happens to be that because we come from a country where there was a lot more struggle and a lot
Oh
more,
yeah.
it's an emerging market and it's not as prosperous as we are over here. So, the guys that came from over there, including me, we just struggled more, and so we are more humble. And it's really the rise of the humble CEO, not the rise of the Indian CEO. So,
But
I kind of say that tongue in cheek, but you know what I mean.
yeah, absolutely. And you're so right, right? I mean, growing up in India, I'm pretty sure you were the same way. Growing up in India, we saw so many things that we just, we felt like coming here. Wow. I remember first time going to Starbucks and saying, wow, coffee is $4. Like, really? That's like four times 50. That's 200 rupees. I can buy coffee for like 10 rupees in India. I'm not going to buy Starbucks. My friend took me to a Starbucks cafe, and I was like literally standing there and saying, I'm going to have to pay $10 for this coffee for him and me. And I was so relieved when he pulled his card out saying, I'm going to pay for this. And I'm like, wow, thank you. I didn't have to pay for this, right? So coming from that and, just being in a different life, it just changes your whole perspective of life, right? And you're so right that that's what makes some of these people strong because they built their own foundations. They have seen the worst. So they know what it's like to be on the other side, and so it helps and helps you in a different way to build companies. So one advice that you would like to give people who are looking to become CEOs or who are currently thinking about starting new businesses, what is the advice that you would give them?
I think it's build the empathy muscle, right? Because it's very easy to build every other muscle and let empathy become your Achilles heel, and that's what's going to take you down. So I think more and more things are changing to where, you know, businesses are not going to be capital constrained, they're not going to be innovation constrained, they're not going to be technology constrained, they're not going to be, you know, all the other constraints are going to lift, but they are going to be talent constrained forever and ever and ever. So, and the only way to retain, inspire, engage, and grow talent is to be empathetic and understand what it's like for that call center agent to take those calls and deal with difficult consumers or customers day after day. What does it take that frontline salesperson to go knock on those doors and, cold call and push the envelope to get a deal done? So unless that, I think, empathy muscle is built up, it's hard to be super effective in any leadership role, let alone a CEO role.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And with that great thunder, right? It's basically end of our time to talk. And it was so much fun talking to you. It's always a fun talking to you. And thank you for being on the podcast. And if you guys are listening and want to be on the podcast, if you are a founder or a CEO, let me know. We'll be happy to have you on. And please check Ravi out and Cantaloupe out. They're doing some pretty cool stuff out there. And buy some stock. I'm totally buying stock because I know it's going to go up if this guy is the CEO. So thank you again.
Thanks, Adwait. Appreciate it.